Everyone to the studio, please. Testing. Testing. Hello. Dr. Grind. Godfather. HR3. Come to the studio, please. It's time to go live.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, this is TGD Today. And now please welcome Heroy III,
HR3,
Al Cloyd,
Dr. Grind,
George Honeycutt, the Godfather.
All right, fellas, stand by.
And hey, everyone in the golfing world, it's TGD Today. This is George Honeycutt with HR3, and we are missing, sadly missing, Al Cloyd.
Yep, Al's a little under the weather.
Dr. Grind.
He'll live though.
He's watching us, I'm sure, on the laptop. Got his head laying on the pillow. It's just good that he's watching something else on his laptop, laying in bed, versus he's watching us versus something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right.
Gotcha.
Well, Al couldn't be with us today, but I wanted to continue on, Hugh, Tech Talk with Al Cloyd, and I had come up with a subject matter with Al earlier in the week, and I think it's one that's vitally important right now,
Yes.
and that is adjustments and waiting on the new drivers, the new technology. And it's one that I run into every day, being the fitter down at Callaway Performance Center and the Golfsmith Performance Center there at Barefoot Resort. And of course, you see every day as a fitter and a swing guru, instructor, and owner of your Myrtle Beach Golf Center. So, I every day I have someone come in. Yesterday, one of our longtime listeners, Roger, he comes in and he goes, George, I need a new driver. He goes, I'm not quite sure what the new hosels do and the new weights adjustments and this, that, and the other. And he goes, can you give me a fitting? Great. I can give you a fitting, and it's me tuning and adjusting the driver. So we ended up picking a driver for him. We ordered it, and then, he's getting ready to leave the shop, and he goes, now, when this comes in, is it being delivered to me or you? And I said, well, let's say it's being delivered to you. He goes, well, I'm not even going to open it. I'm going to bring it to you. And I said, well, do you want it delivered to me? And he goes, yes. Go ahead and deliver it to you because I'm going to come get it, and then you're going to adjust it when it comes in.
Well, and that's a part of what we do, George, but it's also our responsibility to explain and show these people how all of that works.
So let's do that now.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's do that now. All right. We have, 50 different drivers out there?
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? We find over the last couple of years, the big thing is there was being these tuning weights putting into the heads. That was some of the early models. And then we saw these adjustments on the weights. You'd be able to move the weights. And then you had the multiple adjustment hosels.
Yeah.
We're talking there's 12 adjustments on one. There's 21 adjustments on another. They varied but depending on manufacturer. And what I have found actually with playing each of these clubs, with playing with them, toying around with them, testing my knowledge of them, is they have some things to do with the driver and his performance, but then some of it you just question exactly what am I doing with it. So let's start with the hosel. Again, you have normally a screw that you are given a wrench with your driver. You unscrew the screw. You lift the head off the hosel, and then you have one or two components in that ferrule that you can turn and move and adjust and all this, and then you put the head back down, and then you got to be real careful when putting the screw back in because you'll strip it out in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But, you see numbers like N and S and -1 and +1 and D and R, and you see all these little you see a circle with lines through it, then you see a plus sign, on one manufacturer. Then with another manufacturer, you see 9.5, 10.5, 11.5, 12.5 on the hosel. So again, this is just so doggone confusing.
Well, and here's the thing, and I'm as guilty of this, and I know you are too. You're a little more geeky when it comes to
Yeah.
this kind of stuff and reading the directions that actually come with.
Well, I have to
the
pass.
driver.
I go through certification classes.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying it's a matter of the fitter more so than the individual, because the individual's coming in to buy it. They want you to tell them what they need to do with it when you're fitting them. So obviously we need to know, as the fitter, instructor, whatever,
Right.
what to tell these folks.
Right.
And a lot of these numbers and letters and things that are on these hosels are based off of what the individual themselves need, how they swing a golf club, their ball flight,
Okay.
the height,
Okay.
the curvature, whatnot, so that you can move it and put it to that point. And that's what I think it needs to be explained to them, how that works, as opposed to you'll see them come in with it closed and no loft. And I've seen some things come in, I'm going, you want to know why you can't hit this thing?
Right.
I mean, Tiger Woods couldn't hit this thing.
Or the common comment I get is well, I hit it at this sporting goods shop, and I was hitting it really good, and then I got the club and got home, and the club that they gave me out of the back or off the rack
Wasn't
is
set
not
up
hit
the
the
same.
same,
And it's not set up the same.
That's right. But then too, I got to look at the player, and I got to ask the question, Hugh, just how much is that hosel adjustment really making a difference in your swing, your ball flight, your results? Is the little bit, microscopic adjustments. These are microscopic. We're talking, a half point and lie. We're talking 0.75 adjustments on one manufacturer.
Yeah.
You can make 2 down and 1 up, or you can make 2 up and 1 down, or you can move it a half of a gram here or half a gram there, or a 30-gram weight here or a 13-gram weight there. I mean, you see my point.
Oh, yes.
And you just got to wonder, in the hosel, and we're just talking about hosel right now, you're able to change the loft and the lie in that hosel.
Yes.
Now, if you're looking to just change loft, then that's fine. You can go. You could buy a 9.5 or a 10-degree driver, and let's say that you can adjust it down 1 to 9, or you can adjust it up to 12, or let's say if it's like one manufacturer, you're able to adjust 2 one way, 1 the other, and it's 0.75 degrees each increment.
Yeah.
And so you're able to move it up 1.5. So you can go from a 10 to 11.5, or you're able to move it down 1. So you're moving down 0.75 degrees of loft. So you're going to a 8.25 from a 9, or a 9.25 from a 10.
And again, it's all based off of the manufacturer, the club itself, the center of gravity of the club, which we haven't even gotten into yet.
Yeah, but we're
that
going
is,
to.
But that is an extreme point in how you set up that neck. Because, granted, I am a Nike individual, and with the Nike driver, the center of gravity is much higher. Therefore, I'm playing more loft right now than I've played my whole career.
Right.
I used to play a 6.5-degree driver when I was on tour. Now
Right.
I'm playing a 9.5.
Right.
Now people will say, "Well, you're getting old," and it has nothing to do with it. My
Right.
club head speed, my launch, everything else is the same. But with the center of gravity being moved up, the ball
Right.
definitely goes lower, doesn't spin as much as the
Right.
old days. Plus the new balls. There's so many variables in this thing.
Okay, you just brought up a great point. Let's highlight this for our viewers and our listeners, okay? With any driver you're looking at, your current driver, a future driver, a driver that you just see on the internet or you see an advertisement on TV about, and you say, oh, I got to try that. The objective today is, last year the big thing is add more loft. That was the big thing.
Launch.
Get
Launch it as
a
high
higher
as you
launch.
can with no spin.
Okay,
Absolutely.
well, then you get into this year's buzzwords is launch it as high as you can with as little spin as you can. So that's the new buzz around the driver world, is you want to get as much launch angle as possible with as little spin as possible. And that makes the ball go further.
And that's where the average golfer, and folks, I don't mean to insult you, but that's where the average golfer says, well, you know, I play a 9.5-degree driver or a 10.5-degree driver, and they go and they hit these new drivers and they set it up the way they want it set up, or they think that this is what I do.
Uh-huh.
And they wonder why the ball doesn't stay in the air.
Right.
And you've got to understand, technology is changing the game of golf. I mean, it's ridiculous now how much further everybody hits the ball because, number one, lengths of clubs have changed, lofts have changed. It's nuts. And with a driver, you've got to make sure that ball launches up and does not overspin. Mm-hmm. And that's where these launch monitors from, you know, all your different things that everybody's got, whether it's TrackMan or, you know, it's whatever it is.
Right.
You've got to be able to have them utilize that for you to give you those numbers. So you can find out your optimum spin range, launch angle, angle of attack, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And that's huge. And if you got to pay for it, it's worth it.
Well, another thing I want to bring up is again, with all these manufacturers, and, you know, I've studied majority of them. Let's just say that. I often find that, yes, this head and this hosel, this fitting hosel, and again, each manufacturer has their own fitting hosel. So you're going to have to look at, that's why you have the different wrenches, and everybody goes, well, why don't we have the same wrench for all the well, that's because they're putting their patent screw inside of it and this, that, and the other. And some heads screw on better than other heads, and some screws strip out quicker than other screws, and some hosels are easier to work with than other hosels. And so it's dependent on the manufacturer. While we're talking about hosels, again, come to a realization that there's still a major reason why these manufacturers produce multiple degree drivers. Even though any of the hosels you can adjust the loft, there is still a reason why that they produce a 9-degree or a 10-degree or a 12-degree or even now a 13.5-degree high launch driver. It's because the adjustments given to you or afforded to you by that hosel is not as great as you think.
No, it's not. And again, it goes back to the fact that the lack of spin.
Right.
And that's where it's coming from. And that's what folks, I mean, everybody's got an iPad or a computer or a laptop, whatever. Do your research.
Do the research.
Learn if you're looking at a particular driver, go look at it. Read about it. Mm-hmm. You know, read about the club you're looking at. Mm-hmm. Find out what the variables are and the different options that you have so that when you go get fitted, you know, it's not somebody telling you something. It's no different than going and buying a car. You don't know if you're getting a good one or a bad one, you know, if you're buying a used car. Well, this way you have some knowledge walking into the shop. Right, so you've got one up on the salesman, so to speak, or you're on the same page.
Oh, yeah.
And you're not going to get sold something that doesn't fit you. Not everybody's as honest as George and I, where we're going to make sure you've got what works for you. I mean, there's people that will sell you something just to sell it because it's expensive.
Yeah, I had a lady last weekend came in for entire set fitting. And after I got through evaluating her irons, her driver, her fairway metals, her hybrids, I said, ma'am, you don't need clubs. She goes, what? I says, I'd love to sell you $3,000 worth. You don't need clubs. What you've got works fine. She goes, are you crazy? I said, no, ma'am. She gave me a $100 bill.
Yeah, but I mean, that's,
you know, she says, my honest. Goodness. She goes, that's the first honest answer I've ever had.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. But folks, you can do your own research. You can go on and look at this stuff. You can find out, and you know, everybody's on the computer at some point for a minimum of an hour or an hour and a half a day. Go on and read about it.
Right.
If you're sitting there in front of the TV and you're
or
bored
chat with
TV,
us, send us an email. Hugh and I would love to get back with you with insight, direction, guidance, tips. Al would do that. Al would take the time out of his day to do that for anybody. You contact us here through the Golf Director. Send us an email. Send us a chat line. Whatever you want to do. Just get in contact with us if you have a question. But I'm telling you, you know, the ferrules have multiple adjustments depending on the manufacturer. understand a little bit more about what you're looking at, which club you like. If the Ping strikes your fancy, then learn more about the Ping driver and its ferrule. If you like the Callaway, then learn more about that ferrule, because it is totally opposite a side of the coin than a Ping.
And I'm going to throw you a curveball at the moment.
Okay.
Do the research on the golf ball that you play.
Oh, I
this
thought
is-
about that a while ago.
But I mean,
Yeah.
learn about the ball and how much it spins and what
Oof.
it's going to give you and what it's supposed to do, because that plays a big part in how you set
Huge.
this driver up.
You're not trying to tell me that the golf ball is going to make a difference.
Dude,
You think I'd waste a breath sitting here talking
Dude.
to him if it wasn't the truth?
he
You
does,
mean- you mean
he
I
does
can't-
love me.
You mean I can't just go in the clubhouse and from the grab bag and get the same result from each ball?
No. And if you don't care about golf balls, and well, that doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Take it from experience. I mean, that's why, I used to have to go when I was with Bridgestone, when I was on tour, I'd have to go to Conyers and sit out there on that tee with, egg trays of golf
Right,
balls
right.
that had been incubated and whatnot
Right.
with perfect temperature, and hit them with nothing but colored dots on them.
Yeah.
And they would record the best results and tell me the ball that I was going to play.
So a golfer he needs to grab a ball that fits, that works well, and stick with it.
With his swing, with his ascent to the ball, with his club angle of attack. There, all these factors come into play with fitting the right ball, and we're going to do whole programs on that.
And no
Because
offense, Jeff, if they say, well, I don't care about the ball, I'm going to lose them anyway, well, then don't complain about the ball flight or how you hit it.
Don't think
Because
about it then.
all of this ties in together. And if you're a serious golfer, and I know this kind of stuff bores my wife to death when she listens to it, because she's been a part of it for almost 18, 19 years now, you've got to get everything dialed in if you want the optimum performance.
folks, what you and I are telling you is the things are changing so rampantly here in the golf industry, with equipment, with balls, with everything. And people look at it as either one, A, the manufacturers are just trying to make us swallow all this stuff and buy a new driver every 3 months, or B, they're launching all these balls that is confusing the heck out of us and we don't know what to play. The difference here is they're making available the technologies to enable you to enjoy the game more, to get more out of the game that we know and love. And so thusly, why not take advantage of that? And not only is the game improving itself through technology, but we're actually seeing the price points now adjust back to where, we can go out and acquire new pieces of technology or new balls and actually afford them.
Yes, and that's the thing that is nice to see, because a few years ago it got a little ridiculous.
Yeah, it did. It did.
And
but,
I understand
But that
that-
particular manufacturer, too, is paying for it right now.
Exactly.
So,
And so, it's just a matter of, again, getting a fitting, yes, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars, but I promise you, if you play golf on a regular basis, 1 to 2 times, 3 times a week, it is well worth the expense to go get fitted and get the equipment to help you play better golf.
I don't know
Because
how
I
many
promise
times-
you can't look me in the eye and tell me you don't like going out and playing with your buddies and beating their butts.
Yeah.
And this will help you do that.
whether that's the guys or the gals.
I don't care who you are.
So we talked about the hosel. Now let's talk about the weights that are on these current drivers. You've got sliding weights. You've got fixed weights. You've got center core gravity weights. You've got toe and heel weights. What does all this mean? Now, we saw several years ago when the weighting system started coming out, the concept is that, okay, if you add a little bit of weight to the toe, it's going to keep the club face open at impact. So if you're a hooker of the ball, this may be a straighten you out. If you're a slicer of the ball, then you probably need to move the weight to the bottom end or take the weight out or whatever, and that'll help close the face up. That was the very crude aspect of it. Then we saw these weights getting applied to the golf clubs, and they all of a sudden had movement. We could move the weight. And what that did is majority of these weights, like TaylorMade, would put the weight just behind the face on the bottom of the club. Callaway came out with their weighting system around the back side of the head. You got Titleist now, who has come out with the ARC system, the ARC system. That's called Active Recoil Channel. So they have designed that channel into their bottom sole, and that enables the face to get a little bit more trampoline effect. And they still have an adjustable hosel with a chart that you need to follow to get that dialed in.
And you better have a doctorate because that thing's complicated.
It is.
And I
It
know
is.
golf clubs.
It is complicated.
It can be very confusing, and that's why you need to take your time and read it.
Well, let's take. I mentioned Titleist. Let's take the TaylorMade. The TaylorMade came out with the R11, the R1, the R11, then the slider, which had the adjustable weight on the bottom sole of it. And if you moved the weight out toward the toe, it was supposed to promote a fade. If you moved it toward the heel, it was supposed to promote a hook or a draw. They call it a draw. However, now with the new R15 that is intended to replace the slider, you have two weights versus one. And so you can either separate the weights and kind of make it in a neutral status. You can move both weights to the heel of it, making it a big-time draw, or you can move both weights to the outside and make it a big-time fade club, depending on which side you hit it from. So my point is now the manufacturers are starting to compete against one another, one, to make sure that they're picking up some sort of a, let's say TaylorMade, for example, they're picking up some sort of a channel. Callaway, a C-cup design inside that has an adjustable weight both in the aspects of heel to toe, and then also too now with Callaway, the center core where you truly can adjust the center of gravity.
And that's extremely important.
Have I just made your eyes just flow in the back of your head?
I know. It makes me actually very happy because that is the essential part of how the ball launches.
Right.
I mean, if you have a high center of gravity, folks, you're not going to get it off the ground. It's going head high.
Well, interestingly, Hugh, I sit and look at all these technologies daily. You know, you're talking about Nike, Cobra, Callaway, TaylorMade, Titleist, Tour Edge, Exotics. Srixon's come out with their new drivers. By the way, look really good. The 745 and the 545, good-looking drivers. I could go on and on mentioning the different drivers. Every one of them's got their own weights, got their own hosels, got their own adjustments, got their own wrench, got their own everything. Okay? The point is you have the issues of, am I going to be able to use these technologies to – I hit a big banana slice every time I hit the ball. So are these drivers going to fix that? No. I hit a big hook. Are these drivers going to fix that? No.
Is there a way to cut that down? Yes. Is it going to eliminate it? No.
That's right. So it boils back to the golfer.
If you
it's
want a
the
Band-Aid,
Indian, not the bow.
It's not the arrow, it's the Indian.
That's right.
And the thing is, you can adjust the weights for a Band-Aid effect, but it is not going to cure the problem.
Now, one thing that I do find in fittings is the weight adjustments, the center of gravity adjustments, the hosel adjustments. You're able to take a club that may feel clunky or may feel kind of weird in somebody's hand, and through the different dialing in aspects, all of a sudden now it becomes their best friend.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think that's the most optimistic approach of taking one of these clubs and saying, okay, which one looks good to me? Which one feels good laying at the end of my hands? Which one seems to, in my mind, hit the ball better than all the rest of them? And that's all player perception, dude.
And here's the thing, too, George. You can say in the shaft, okay, I've got a high flex point shaft. I've got a low flex point shaft.
I haven't even gotten into shafts
But
yet,
hang
dude.
on, though. But by adjusting these weights and the lofts and the lies like you're talking about, you're actually moving that flex point.
That's right.
That's why the club starts to feel better as well.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things in this, folks, that everybody thinks, oh, it's a stick and a ball like Robin Williams. I was listening to that on Facebook this morning, dying laughing, him explaining the origins of golf.
Right.
You know, it's not a stick and a ball to a gopher hole. I mean, there's so much physics and science that go into these things.
Tons.
It is ridiculous.
Tons. And we say it enough. I don't think we say it enough, whatever you want to argue. But the other evening I walked into a big box retailer, Hugh, and I had a cup of coffee. I was waiting on She Who Must Be Obeyed, who was in another store, and I was just killing time with my cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And I stood in the golf department of this big box retailer, and I just stood and watched. And I watched golfers, young and old, men and women, come through there and pick up clubs and look at them and then walk over and buy these things. And I'm sitting here going, they have no clue what they just purchased, what they just spent hundreds of dollars on.
Yeah, they read something in Golf Digest or see something on the Golf Channel, or and okay, I want one of those, and
Right.
they go get it. And the thing that gets me, and I've done it a couple of times, George, and it's kind of funny because I've done it with a couple of kids that come into town, from out of town.
Right.
They want to go to Golfsmith, and Golfsmith is much better than a couple of the other ones. But I've gone to a couple of them, and I walk in and start hitting the driver. Mm-hmm. And
Don't tell me.
And the guy comes over saying, well, that thing's like, I said, yeah. He said, man, you're hitting that thing 310 yards. I'm like, yeah, that's what the thing says. So I'm over there. I've got the whole con going. And I got this guy believing.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you use this, you'd probably hit it better. And if you do this, you'd probably, I think you need to make your grip.
If you do this, and I turned around, and the kid is over there. And it was Jonna. And she's over there howling. Howling. And this poor guy, thinking he's getting ready to make a sale, and I reached in, pulled my wallet out, and I said, here you go, bud. When you need to learn how to do this right, call me.
Ooh.
And I walked out the door.
Ooh,
because I'm like, I know my numbers. I know the shafts. I know the numbers. I know what I'm looking at. I know they've got these machines turned up, and I'm like going, dude, I don't hit it 310. I'm 50 years old. I know I hit it about 290 if I hit my Sunday best.
Right.
Don't tell me I'm hitting a driver 310 yards.
Well, we had a guy yesterday, actually, that came in, and he wanted to try this particular head. It's a new product, just came out, and we have it in a 7-iron with the multiple shafts. And I asked him, Corey asked him, how far do you normally hit a 7-iron? He said, well, I was just over at this store, and I was hitting it 150 on their simulator. And I looked at him, I said, sir, you will not hit it 150 on this simulator. Sorry. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I just hit it over there. I says, you will not hit it here. And he hit it, and it went the best 130.
Yeah.
And I said, there's a difference between putting the turbo boost on one of those sims and actually getting an accurate figure.
Yeah.
And we base everything that we do here off of accurate figures. So I can't take a turbo boost number and fit you with it. So let's just consider that the source.
Well, and the funny part is, it's like, you take my set of golf clubs that I play with, okay? They are bent to old school lofts. And people look at me, they're hitting 9-irons from 150, 55 yards.
Right.
And I'm taking, in the summertime, I'll take an 8-iron.
8-iron, yeah.
And hit it 150 to 155 yards.
And you also will take a 7-iron when it's called for.
And I can hit 7-iron because
right.
my clubs are not jacked up.
That's right.
And these kids will say, well, let me hit your 7-iron.
Most clubs out now are 2 degrees jacked.
So I'll have them hit their 7-iron. I said, now hit mine.
Yeah.
And it comes up a club short.
A club short.
And they
Yep.
look at me going, what's wrong with these? I said, nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
I said, they're not jacked up. I
That's
said,
right.
I know exactly how far
That's right.
I hit them full, then I know what I can dial them down to.
Well, let's say now with the new drivers, interesting like the R15 TaylorMade. With the 2 weights, I think that's much better than the 1 weight of the slider because you're actually getting more weight that you can adjust toward the heel or the toe, and you get more cause and effect.
Well, and you get more balance out of it from
Okay.
the fact that it's a little less and a little more, and it gives you that, like you said, it gives you the gear effect you're looking
That's
for.
right. The Callaway, the 815
Yeah.
Alpha, a beautiful head. That center core, of course, they had it in the original Alpha, Big Bertha Alpha, and now they just moved it on forward into the 815 series. And with the larger center core, you're actually able to move the center of gravity. Corey, for example, he can't hit the AA, the double diamond. He cannot hit it. We're talking 1,300 RPMs backspin. That's not even getting it off the deck, dude.
Yeah.
You need to be looking at 2,200 RPMs as your optimal spin with a driver. And so, he has to hit the regular 815 Alpha to see that 2,000 to 2,100 spin rate. Where for me, I can hit a damn putter, 60 yards up in the air.
Yeah.
So for me, I can hit the double diamond because of the way I impact the ball.
Yes.
So use the terminologies and the technologies and the science
To find what fits your golf swing.
and then go somewhere that has some intelligence, that has all of these clubs, that can actually sit down with you, take the time, have the knowledge and the intelligence to educate you as to what's really happening with all this.
I agree 100%. I don't, you're not going to get any kind of argument
Good.
whatsoever.
Good.
But I'm going to tell you this. I got a story before we close this out.
Okay.
We're at the golf center the other day. I've been teaching. I'm out there freezing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the golf academy kids came in. A friend of Nate's came in, and he's looking at my clubs. He goes, "Dude, what's this silver stuff on your club?"
A little lead tape.
No idea what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
No clue
Yeah.
that this stuff is still used by tour players regularly.
Yeah, I still got a roll of it underneath the cash
I
register.
got to roll at the house. I mean, it's to me that's the way I want to do it,
That's right.
because the way that I learned to do. You can balance the whole head. You can do same thing with the removable weights. But if you don't have access to those weights, this is how you do it.
That's right.
And this kid goes, "Well, they never taught us that." And I said, "Sorry,
Right.
you
Right.
know, not my fault."
And it's always going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
So, it will. So now what we're going to do, we're going to continue this discussion, except we're going to move it into fairway metals and hybrids, because now all the manufacturers are coming out with adjustable fairway metals and adjustable hybrids. Great. I'm glad to see the technologies making the transition. I'm wondering when we see the adjustable irons. I'm just waiting for it. So remember the old one you used to buy? You could carry with one club, travel with you. It was a 3-iron, a 5-iron, a 7-iron, a 9-iron.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So I'm just waiting to see the day that comes about. So next Tech Talk with Al Cloyd will be a continuation of this show here. I want to thank everybody for joining us on TGD Today and Tech Talk with Al Cloyd, minus Al Cloyd. TGD Radio and TV are produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting the Golf Director site, navigate over to our featured course pages where you'll find up-to-date information about course conditions, specials, and much, much more. Need help with your next golf vacation? Well, hey, just give us a call at 844-GO-GOLF-1, 844-464-6531, and ask for Dave. All of our TGD programming is archived for listening and viewing on demand. Catch up on any show you may have missed. Click on the TGD Radio or TGD TV tabs in the menu screen at thegolfdirector.com. For HR3, Hugh Royer, and myself, George Honeycutt, we want to thank Jeff behind the glass. We thank you for tuning in, and there's more TGD golf news and information coming up next.